I'll pretend there's a flag in front of me.
Bang, it's clean up there.
I
It- I-
pledge
what-
allegiance to the
The
flag
flag.
Flag,
of the
United States of America,
America,
the
and
republic
to the
for which
republic
it stands,
for which it
one
stands,
nation,
One nation,
nation,
God,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice.
Thank you.
for all.
And if there's an emergency, you guys are all on your own. Figure it out yourself. And you can take roll now.
Okay. John Parati,
Present.
Abood Abdelghani, Zach Welburn, Thomas Scannell,
Present,
James Urbano,
Present.
Steve Carroll,
Here,
Jason Beach,
Here.
Walter Gankars.
Here.
Okay.
Reform. Okay. Today's agenda here, public communications. I have none, but Walt, is the letter that was sent, or you
Yeah.
talked about this afternoon, for
Yeah.
change of,
Just a real minor thing. There's an existing house over on 125 Main Street across from the library, being converted to a law office. It's already connected to the sewers. Actually, the projected flows are less than what a single family home. So just administratively okayed that and said that, they would switch from a single family home rate to a commercial rate measured by their water.
pretty benign. Okay, no other public communications that I have under that. We don't have any applications or changes to applications, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Projects, any new projects?
None.
How about the superintendent's report? You can give us one, and then I have some comments on it.
Yeah, I talked to Scott. I'll read what he wrote. Plant is running well. Flows are still a little high due to all the rain, and I think partly because everybody's at home. Phosphorus removal and UV systems are up and running. Pump stations are in good shape. We're slowly getting back to our normal routines now that things are opening up. That's about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the things
they had two people off at all time, but I think Monday and everybody was back on.
okay. I did notice that the flows looked like they were up even more, and the question is how much of that's rain, how much of it is we actually have more people in this town throughout the whole day. I think that has to be some of the reason. Is it something that's even normal? Who knows? I think Cheshire and the community, most people leave the town for employment in other areas. So we'll have to look at that, monitor, and see what happens.
Yeah.
John, can I ask Walt, with all the schools closed, has that, I would think that's a big usage of the system, or no, or is it maybe not? Maybe I got it wrong.
Yeah, something like the high school has a reasonable flow, but a lot of other ones aren't that huge.
No.
Because they're only 5 days a week. So I'm trying to think when we look at the top 50 ratepayers. I think the high school and Dodd are in there, but I don't think any of the other ones are.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think those would be indifferent because the flows are going to be
right, they're
House
all
dwelling
still in
anyway.
town, they gotta flush somewhere, whether they
Yeah.
flush the high school or flush home.
Exactly.
I send my kids out to the woods.
That's a good move. Okay, their town engineers report.
Nothing. The other thing I will say is that I believe the council's voting on a budget tonight. I asked Arnett if she had an updated one to look at it, but she wasn't able to get me it. I'm sure they're still kind of playing around with some last minute numbers, but I think, probably the two impacts, the WPCA, Scott had asked for the electrician to go from 30 hours to 40 hours. It didn't look like that was going to be approved And I had made a strong pitch that I really think, when I'm leaving June 30th, that they really should replace me with a full-time town engineer or a 4-day town engineer, similar to where I started. Just because I think that, number one, the job needs it, and number two, it's helpful in getting a bunch of grants and doing a bunch of in-house work that we'd have to contract out, and a lot of long-term savings, so it wasn't a self-serving thing because I wasn't asking for a raise or more days or anything. I just think that job needs it. I think due to the goal of having zero increase, it looks like they're going to allocate a certain amount of money for, I think it's 40 or 45,000 a year for an on-call consultant, split time between WPCA and other town functions. So I expect that's where it's going to end up, but we'll see.
Question from Carol.
Yeah, I think not so much a question. I just wanted to relay because the pandemic, you completely bored half the day. And I happened to watch the last town council meeting where there was a significant discussion about the WPCA. And I recall a discussion about, the electrician and replacing Walt. And so I, just because I know him and he is our liaison, I called Tim Slocum and I said, hey, I just want to warn you that the sewer treatment plant is probably the most complicated piece of equipment you have here in town. You cut a position several years ago during the height of summer when people are on vacation. You sometimes have the electrician driving a sludge truck to Waterbury. And I said, don't underestimate, how much you need a town engineer. So I just wanted, I just wanted to stick my nose in it, but it sounded to me like, at least from Tim's standpoint, that they were leaning toward, like a 4-day-a-week engineer. He wasn't so sure about the electrician's job. And my only point was, I called them to say, you guys are always chipping away at the post here. Be careful what you're doing because,
Yeah.
You guys we're as thin as thin can be. So.
Right. No, I think that's great, Steve. And, I really do think for like the WPCA, I mean, when Dennis and I and Michael, spent a bunch of time preparing stuff for the, $1.4 million we got from the Cheshire Correctional, stuff like that just is going to disappear. You don't have somebody to do that, so, yeah, it looks good, but, what you don't get, and that's the thing, you won't know it till it's gone, or you don't get it. In 7 years, not just WPCA, but half of it's WPCA. We got like $17 million worth of grants, and
Yeah.
so anyhow, I really hope they go to that 4-day model because I think it would be wonderful. I think it warrants it. So we'll see.
Well, I think the June meeting is scheduled for the 24th. Don't know what the actual opening of the state will be at that point, but at some point between that night and when in the future we will obviously have to recognize Walt. I don't know if we're going to give him a building, maybe a little plant out front. An annual.
Yeah, maybe a sump pump or something.
Yeah,
like that.
sump pump.
Right, we'll give 'em a grinder,
I'm
we'll give
lucky
'em a
enough to
grinder
have
pump.
yeah, I've got a dry basement, so I shouldn't say that.
That's pretty good. All right. Well,
So,
Yeah,
Walt, do you know what the council's time frame at this point is for making these decisions? You may have mentioned it and I missed it.
I think they're voting on a budget tonight. I'm pretty sure.
there you go, Steve. There's another thing to do to watch
No,
tonight.
that's why I was trying to see if I could get from Arnett, let me just double check, but, I didn't know what the final,
Yeah.
what the final proposal, because, it's like, how it is, you were on it. I mean, it kind of, there's a draft and then there's a
This is-
modification and.
Yeah,
put some more
it's
things
pretty
in.
late. It's pretty late for the operating budget, but I suppose it was pushed back because of this whole pandemic thing and the inability to meet. I thought that would have been set in stone by now, but probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, the governor gave an extra 30 days, so that's why it
Okay,
was
okay,
pushed out
that
to the
makes
end of
sense.
May.
Okay. So there is probably gonna be a time though, Walt, where your services will be ceased and there'll be a gap. That's what we think also.
I don't know. It depends on how fast they get. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I guess the first move is see what happens with the budget and then how they go about replacing it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Item number 6, new business. I believe there's none. Item 7, old business. I know that Steve, you had a question about the church and if there's any update on there. I don't have any update. I haven't heard anything. Walt, have you heard anything through them about the regional water authority and the meter and all that?
No,
okay, so if we could just keep it on the agenda under old business going forward, just so we don't forget about it.
Yeah, can you make a note of that?
yeah.
Be interesting. That's what is it, Calvary?
Calvary
Life
Church,
Church.
Calvary Life Church or
Yeah.
whatever.
That should remain under old business going
Yeah.
forward. till
I
we
think
resolve
Tom
it.
Scannell lives the closest. He should wander up there and ask them what they're up to.
When they open up the services, I'll go and take part.
I thought we were gonna get Tom a drone and he was gonna go flying around. Remember?
That's still an old business thing we still gotta do. I'm not gonna walk through the woods. I'm talking to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Since it's, I guess, my charge too on the sump pump committee, and obviously I have not set up any meetings. Jason and Tom, you are the other 2 members of that committee. I was kind of hoping that, we'd get back face to face, spend a half hour before every WPCA meeting and go through this. But if this drags on much longer, maybe we'll have to do something, something interactive like we're doing now. But if either of you have strong feelings either way about it, let me know.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm fine either way. I'd prefer in person, obviously. It's better, but I'm happy to do Zoom as well if it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the in-person makes more sense because you can kind of, toss things around a bit better, and it's not as
Right.
awkward as a Zoom meeting. But thanks.
Steve, I don't know what you have for files or whatever, but I'll sometime in the next month, I'll peruse my pile of information and
Yeah, good idea, and forward that to at
Yeah.
least me or.
yeah, I'll see what I
John,
can get
yeah.
scanned in and, especially Jason's never seen it. So,
Right.
I get it scanned in and sent off to you guys.
Maybe
Lot
you
of
can
information.
surreptitiously sneak out with a thumb drive, with all that.
Yeah, highly.
Okay, I don't think there's any other old business. Item 8 is the approval of the minutes. First time we've had a fairly beefy packet of minutes here. I've looked and I've reviewed out the.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion made by Tom, second by
I'll second that.
Steve. Are there any discussion or edits to the minutes that we want?
Not for me.
Yeah.
The
You
only
have a change?
There was one edit that Marilyn was aware of already. It's the date on the heading. I believe it should be the 23rd, not the 24th. She's aware of that change.
Wednesday,
Setting council
April
changes.
23rd.
Yes, we want to.
I don't remember what didn't we have it on April? On that, we had it on a Thursday, I recall.
Right. We
Um,
had it on,
Yeah, because we posted off one day.
Yeah,
correct. So it was held on April the 23rd, Thursday, the 23rd.
Yeah,
And Mary,
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
So agreed. Yeah, the title there on page 1 needs to be corrected then to April 23rd.
got it. Looks looks good. All right. So then, with all those edits and changes, all in favor to approve? Opposed, vote passes unanimously by all those voting and electronically present. Now, do we see anything else that may be pending, working over us, that we know Walt's going to be here next meeting? I don't know about any other, second phases of any of the feasibility applications we have out there, whether they'll be in play or not. We'll have to keep an eye on those.
Yeah, in terms of communications that Walt would normally do, maybe with AECom or applicants or otherwise, and I'm presuming there's going to be a gap before we find a new town engineer. Do we know who's going to be handling that in the interim?
No.
Yeah.
I guess that's the short answer, but,
Yeah.
again, depending on where it goes, I mean, I've told these guys I'll certainly help out. I mean, I'm not gonna just leave them high and dry, but, obviously,
Well,
Yeah.
bill them at a high rate per hour so that they're incentivized to get a new town engineer.
Get him out.
yeah, goodness. So anyhow,
Okay,
Well, that's,
but we'll have an answer for that before that. I mean, literally kind of with the COVID thing and the budget not adopted, the discussions really haven't been had, but I think once it's adopted, then they know which way they're going. And then, I know George has obviously thought about it, but we'll have a face-to-face and figure out which way they're going to go.
okay. Well, I think with that, not much else for us to talk about. Benign agenda for your slow meeting. Motion to adjourn.
I can make a motion to adjourn.
By Tom, second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously. Next meeting, hopefully, we'll have. Now, Ann, it's still, the next meeting is still going to be by Zoom, right?
That is correct. Through June, they're going to continue to
Yeah.
Oh, man, you lost me.
Through June, all right. So we should have a social distancing going away party for Walter?
we'll have to find something where
We'll
we
have to
can-
find, there's outdoor dining, so
Yeah,
we may
there-
be having this meeting, then getting into a car and driving
Yeah,
to
we'll
somewhere
find an
outside.
outdoor watering
I
hole.
want to go sit down and have some guy with a mask serve my food.
You have to eat it through the mask.
I just like the idea of going into the bank with a mask on and asking for some money.
I know.
Yeah, it is
So,
kind
so
of-
I'm going to tell you a little story about that. So I had to go to a store